Hello folks, Marcel back with the Pulse. Breaking news today. I'll get right to it. Guys, we've waited for 2 years for some response, for some real action to the FDA's attempt to ban NMN, and we're finally there. We're finally getting it. We've talked about it this channel many times that it could happen, that it probably would happen, and it is now. The NPA, the Natural Products Association, is taking the federal government to court. They filed a lawsuit against the FDA and HHS. I'm going to get right to the story. This is huge. This is going to impact you guys in many ways. As a matter of fact, there is already some urgent impacts. If you're taking NMN, you're definitely going to want to watch this. You're probably going to want to stock up on NMN when you hear what the FDA has already done to start removing NMN from the U.S. market. Now, FDA faces new lawsuit from NPA over anti-aging ingredient NMN. This article is by Josh Long. I'll put the link in the description. I encourage you to follow along. He does a great job at Natural Products Insider and breaks down this story. We've interacted a little bit. He made a little correction or added some information about something that I think is urgently important to anyone taking NMN. So you're going to want to hear more about that. And I'm going to try to find out more from Dan Fabricant about that and the lawsuit in general. He's a good friend of the channel, and as is Josh Long, and we appreciate them providing this information. Now, let's look at it at a glance. NPA requested a finding that NMN should not be excluded from the definition of a dietary supplement. The NMN supplement market has suffered business setbacks in the U.S. following an FDA determination in 2022. You think about that. The U.S. market is suffering when the rest of the world is booming, so says David Sinclair, who we'll talk about more in a moment. He states that the NMN market worldwide is now $2.5 billion. So you can see why the heat is turning up now from the U.S. supplement industry to get NMN back on the store shelves. The lawsuit against FDA shows this is a new day, NPA lawyers said, explaining industry will challenge the agency when warranted. This is a big move. This is the second lawsuit in the past 3 years against the FDA, and you could pretty much say that NPA won the first one because that was concerning NAC, and the result was the lawsuit was withdrawn because FDA agreed to an enforcement discretion policy. Matter of fact, there's some new information about that as well, which is very pro-supplement industry. So I'll touch upon that too. A Washington, D.C. based trade association representing retailers and manufacturers of dietary supplement products has sued the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for the second time since late 2021, this time over an anti-aging ingredient that's been investigated as a new drug. I will say that while NPA represents retailers and manufacturers, we are also as citizens impacted as well, and Josh gets into that as well in this article. On Wednesday, August 27th, the Natural Products Association filed a complaint in the U.S. District Court of the District of Columbia against FDA, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS, and the leaders of both agencies. NPA requested a declaratory judgment finding that NMN should not be excluded from the definition of a dietary supplement. The lawsuit is consequential, not just for ingredient suppliers and finished product brands selling NMN, because it also affects the interests of a pharmaceutical company that has been conducting clinical trials of NMN using its proprietary ingredient called MIB 626. Metro International Biotech was co-founded by David Sinclair, a world-renowned scientist on the aging process and ways to slow its effects. Sinclair was the subject of an in-depth Wall Street Journal article published on April 27th and featuring the headline, "Star Scientist's Claim of Reverse Aging Draws Hail of Criticism." Now this is quite significant because David Sinclair does not have the backing of many people in his own scientific community right now because of his overreach and his overreaching statements concerning anti-aging and concerning NMN. An investigational new drug application filed with FDA and the clinical trials involving Metro's MIB 626 that have been instituted and made public have shaped FDA's conclusion that NMN cannot be marketed in dietary supplement products. Ironically, Earlier this year, what we're talking about in April in that Wall Street Journal article is that David Sinclair is trying to market NMN as a supplement to dogs, yet at the same time trying to remove it as a supplement for humans. Stop and think about that just for a moment and the implications. And how is that going to look in federal court? The government's determination which natural products inside are first reported in November 2022, we're coming up on 2 years now, blindsided and incensed the industry because FDA previously had been aware of efforts to market NMN in supplements and even acknowledged without objection a so-called new dietary ingredient notification for NMN. FDA received and filed the pre-market ingredient notification from Syncozymes on March 21st, 2022. So 8 months prior to their letter withdrawing NMN as a supplement, they acknowledged that it was a supplement. The date is relevant because under FDA's interpretation of the law, if NMN was lawfully marketed as a dietary supplement before it was authorized for investigation as a new drug, it can continue to be marketed in supplements. FDA, however, ultimately concluded that NMN was excluded from the definition of a dietary supplement based on new information that came to light while it was reviewing another ingredient notification. I would argue this is not true because it wasn't new information. They even stated, Carol Welch stated, we failed to connect the dots. Well, the dots are now being connected further down the road, Kara. In a November 4th, 2022 letter to a representative of another NMN ingredient supplier, FDA wrote, after carefully reviewing the information provided in your amended notification and other relevant sources, including our own records, we also concluded that NMN was not marketed as a dietary supplement except unlawfully without an NDI notification or as a food before FDA authorized it for investigation as a new drug. Also not totally true, because generally regarded as safe or GRAS certification has been acknowledged as legal by the FDA in the past. Companies have been exercising GRAS, have been exercising a GRAS certification for NMN based on its safety record. So this is not truly, in my view, the complete story. Since then, the NMN market has suffered business setbacks. In the U.S., Amazon announced in 2023 it would no longer allow brands to sell NMN supplements. PayPal and Shopify payment processors stopped processing sales for the ingredient, and an internet company called LegitScript, we've talked about this here because it impacts this channel and this audience, designated NMN as a pseudo-pharmaceutical based on FDA's public statements that NMN is excluded from the definition of a dietary supplement, according to the lawsuit. So LegitScript is also included in the information inside the lawsuit itself, which is quite interesting because this affects the outcome of what multi-billion-dollar companies, several multi-billion-dollar companies, Amazon, Walmart, Google, how much they can be involved with the selling of NMN. NPA disclosed at least 3 of its members have suffered harm as a result of FDA's conclusion regarding NMN, including iHerb, they recently stopped selling NMN, Cellmark, and Galaxy Nutrition. And many other companies have been impacted. These are the 3 members that have been included. If you're a supplement company, now is the time to support NPA. Now is the time to join NPA, and once you join NPA, you can actually contribute to the legal fund to help pay for this lawsuit. So I encourage companies out there to do that. Sign up for the minimum, whatever you have to do, but get out there and help us win for NMN, which will have ramifications for other supplements for years to come. I'm not going to get deep into the drug preclusion clause or in DoNotAge because you should read up more on that yourself, but I am going to jump ahead here a little bit to something very, very important. One of the tools that we have to push back as a citizenry and as an industry is the citizen petition. This was the same method used with NAC. However, in this case, FDA never responded. They just ignored. They thumbed their noses at the public with this citizen petition that many of you supported, many of you forwarded to your congressman, and that's much appreciated, and that's helped this effort for sure. FDA has yet to substantively respond to an NMN-related citizen petition filed in March 2023 by NPA and the Alliance for Natural Health. The petition requested FDA determine NMN is not excluded from the definition of a dietary supplement or commit to exercising enforcement discretion regarding the selling of NMN as a dietary supplement. In the alternative, the petitioners requested FDA recommend that the Secretary of HHS issue a regulation finding that NMN would be lawful in supplements. And I assume that's why HHS, who has oversight here as well, is also included in this lawsuit as a target of this lawsuit. On August 30, 2023, the agency advised the groups it had not reached a decision within 180 days of the petition due to competing agency priorities. In response to the petition, Metro Biotech requested that FDA uphold its determination that NMN is excluded from the definition of a dietary supplement and cannot be marketed in such products. Now, this is going to get really interesting because if they've got these competing agency priorities, how is a federal lawsuit going to impact those agency priorities? What are they going to prioritize now that they're in court? FDA has shown it will seek to enforce its conclusion on NMN and improperly detain NMN while intentionally refusing to respond to NPA's citizens petition. NPA stated in the lawsuit, this is not an issue that will resolve itself absent judicial intervention. The courts must get involved because they're already starting to detain shipments in the U.S. And I said there was a bombshell here. This is huge. We're going to cover this a lot. And this is why you really need to get your NMN stocked up because they're already removing it. They're removing shipments, detaining shipments bound for the U.S. of NMN right now. The law firm Arnell Golden Gregory is representing NPA in the lawsuit. They also represented NAC, by the way. In a phone interview Wednesday, Bell explained the importance of the lawsuit against FDA. He said the agency must start getting comfortable with the idea that the industry will challenge and respond to FDA when it takes actions or inactions, such as those associated with NMN. So they've taken some actions, but they've also not reacted to the citizen petition. So they're just doing some things and then delaying other things. I think there is a history of this industry not challenging FDA's positions. The NMN lawsuit against FDA demonstrates this is a new day, he added. When you do something that harms our industry, that we disagree with, that we think is legally incorrect, we're going to start challenging FDA. You see it on the drug side all the time. You rarely see it on the food supplement side. NPA President and CEO Dan Fabricant suggested FDA is unwilling to have discussions with industry to try to resolve disagreements in a timely and reasonable manner. Keep in mind, Dan Fabricant used to head up the supplement division at FDA, and now he's suing them for the second time. So he knows a little bit about the goings-on at FDA. It's got to be dragged through the courts, which is unfortunate, he said in an interview. The case is significant, not only because NMN is an important ingredient for the supplement industry. FDA's determinations on NMN have harmed the new dietary ingredient notification process, argued Fabricant, who oversaw FDA's division of dietary supplement program until 2014. This notification process is a requirement in DoNotAge to demonstrate the safety of an ingredient like NMN. You had a properly formatted, lawfully submitted NDI, a good day letter, and then FDA pulled the good day letter. That's never happened before. Among other relief, NPA's lawsuit requests a declaration that the drug exclusion clause in DoNotAge does not apply to the dietary ingredient NMN and that FDA's actions are contrary to law and arbitrary and capricious. Should the U.S. District Court determine that FDA hasn't taken final agency action and the NPA lacks standing to bring the case, the lawsuit requests alternative relief on specifically an order requiring FDA to issue a final decision on NPA's citizen petition within 21 days of the court's determination that there has been no final agency action. So they're going to have to respond. They're requesting that judge, if the judge throws out the case, essentially, they're saying, based on they don't have merits yet to pursue this case, then they must respond to that citizen petition. And this could set them up for an appeal if they could get some kind of response out of FDA. We'll see how that plays out. This isn't the only lawsuit filed against FDA by NPA in recent years. NPA sued FDA in 2021 over its determination that another ingredient, NAC, was excluded from the definition of a dietary supplement. NPA eventually voluntarily dismissed the case after FDA issued a final guidance or policy of enforcement discretion for NAC containing products labeled as dietary supplement. This summer, FDA revealed plans to publish a first-of-its-kind rule to make NAC lawful in dietary supplements. So they're going a step further, it looks like, despite it being first researched or approved as a drug. So there's definitely precedent for NMN to fill these steps that have occurred with NAC. Now let's talk about that shipment for just a moment here, because I'm going to do a whole video just about this because it's so dangerous. The shipment of detained NMN arrived on July 11th at the port of Louisville, Kentucky. The FDA document shows, and the importer had until September 3rd to respond to the notice. The FDA notice stated the firm, whose name was redacted in the document obtained by NPI, the notice stated the firm had the right to offer testimony to FDA regarding the admissibility of this article or the manner in which the articles can be brought into compliance, though the testimony must be provided to FDA on or before the date shown above, or products are subject to refusal. This begins the path of taking NMN out of your hands. If they can cut off the supply, you're going to run out and you're not going to have any more. And that's what they've begun to do. This is huge. This deserves its own coverage, its own video. So I'll get to that very soon. But this is hugely dangerous, what's going on now if you're taking NMN. And also if you're taking any natural ingredient, because the precedent here, if FDA and Metro Biotech are successful, is they can one at a time start picking off retroactively supplements that have already been sold on the market and undermine the DoNotAge law that is supposed to protect you and the supplement industry from such things. Wow, quite a bit. Here we are. It's going to court. The two possible outcomes are probably the most likely is FDA acquiesces and comes up with an enforcement discretion policy or better for NMN, and they back off, or the HHS goes ahead and states that it can be sold as a supplement. That's probably the most likely scenario, although so far FDA seems to be willing to die on this sword. So we're going to see how this all plays out. I'll continue to cover it as I hear more. I thank you for watching. Please support the channel by subscribing. Please write your congressman again and tell them how urgent this is and how NMN must be protected for you and your loved ones. Thanks for watching. I'll see you real soon.